welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital. Well, I am Bable Jonathan. In this edition of the 6 p.m. prime time newscast on Equinoxe Television, we're going to show you what the people of Ekanjo Bajo in the Kupe Maninguba Division, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, qualify as a nightmare. A stretch of road that was supposed to be constructed since 2005 is today in an advanced state of dilapidation, and this is causing a lot of problems to the inhabitants of that part of the crisis-stricken southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. The Meteorological Center in the littoral region of the country has urged persons living in risk zones, particularly in the town of Douala, to evacuate those areas to avoid a catastrophic situation that could be provoked by heavy flooding predicted by the meteorological services. And in news out of the Republic of Cameroon, a presidential candidate of the ruling APC party in the Federal Republic of Nigeria has been arrested by the anti-corruption agency ahead of the party's primaries prior to the presidential election in that country. Stay with us. Meteorologists have urged persons living in risk zones in the town of Douala to evacuate those areas to avoid a catastrophic situation that could emanate from heavy flooding. And of course, these are the predictions of heavy rains sending distress calls, and of course have provoked distress calls, and of course the meteorological service officials are sending distress calls to the people living in risk zones to leave those areas if they don't want to be part of a catastrophic situation in the days ahead. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Few days after heavy floods were witnessed in several parts of Cameroon, notably at Government School Ahala in Yaoundé in the central region and the north entry into the Lembe Stadium still in Yaoundé, the Regional Service of Meteorology in the littoral region warns of a possible flood disaster in the days ahead.
On n'est pas sorti de la zone rouge. Il faut rester vigilant.
We are not yet out of danger. We need to stay vigilant, especially those living in neighborhoods like Bonaberi, Makepe Misoke, Bonanjo, Bali, Akwa, and
Bonamusadi. Et maintenant des zones marécageuses.
The looming threat of renewed flooding in several regions comes after weather forecasts predicted that heavy rainfall will be witnessed in the littoral region. Meteorologists warn that such a situation could result to a rise in cholera cases.
Vous savez qu'on est en période d'épidémie de choléra.
Residents need to be very careful now, especially with the coming of the heavy rains. The cholera epidemic is already affecting several households, same as malaria. So I would like to call on those living in risky zones to move to other areas while waiting for the rains to stop. With over 7,045 cholera cases detected and 135 deaths recorded across the national territory, it is primordial for everyone to be on high alert.
Now to the far north region of the Republic of Cameroon, where Equinoxe Television were investigating news circulating on social media that a retired teacher, Gaga Mamadi, spent 42 years in service without receiving a dime as a salary. And of course, in our investigations, we found out that information is a fake, and we bring to you details in this report compiled by Fomi and Transcender.
Of this man went viral on social media. Almost all publications of the teacher on retirement said he taught for 42 years without payment. This attracted widespread condemnation from internet users within the context of the teachers' protest over poor treatment from the government of Cameroon. We therefore decided to get to the right source of information on the matter. When we met Gaga Mamadi in Mugum in the Mindiv subdivision, Mayokani division of the Far North region of Cameroon. He was in a poor health condition with his lower limbs practically paralyzed. The over 72-year-old retired teacher confirms that he is the one on the picture that went viral on social media, but says the information attached to his picture is fake. He says he was integrated into the public service in Cameroon in 1968 and retired on December 31st, 2011. That makes about 42 years, 6 months of service to the nation. According to him, he served for 42 years and nothing more. I did not say that I was not paid for all these years.
6 mois normalement. Bon, et puis d'après ce que moi j'ai déclaré, j'ai dit que j'ai 42 ans et 6 mois, un point intérêt.
Earlier, in an effort for the truth to prevail, he spoke to the Guardian Post and Leju Sahel newspapers. To substantiate his point on the truth, he shows some of his pay slips dating 27 and 2009. He said his problem is that he has not received his retirement benefit since 2011 when he retired from public service in Cameroon. He served in 4 ministries: public service, basic education, finance, and secondary education. At the Far North Regional Delegation of Secondary Education, we are told that before going on retirement, Gaga Mamadi was serving as bossa in Government High School Mugum. Arriving the school, classrooms were empty because of the teachers' protest. We met one of the students of retired teacher Gaga Mamadi. He says, like him, other students of Gaga Mamadi were angry when they saw fake news on social media about their former teacher. About his retirement benefit, Mamadi told us that he has been reassured by authorities that his payment is being solved. He is thus on the waiting seat like thousands of other teachers in Cameroon.
And in the report coming up next, we bring to you the reactions of some teachers to the information saying that the direct integration of teachers from the advanced teachers training colleges will come to an end this year, as from 2023 the teachers will no longer be directly, or the trainees from those schools will no longer be directly integrated into the public service. This is a call for concern for many teachers. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
The proposed plan to halt the direct integration of graduates from the Higher Teachers Training College and the Higher Technical Teachers Training College is tearing Cameroonians, especially those of the educational family, apart.
Such a decision has a number of implications to me. Firstly, you discover that the rate of corruption into these schools this academic year will double or triple. Or why not even quadruple? Why? Because parents will see it as a last opportunity to feed their children into these schools. And those who are not supposed to be there will be there. Second implication, you discover that whenever the government will launch integration into these schools over the recruitment of teachers, the rate of corruption again will triple or quadruple. What is the implication? You sideline those who could use their brains or merit to get in, and you bring in charlatans.
Agreeing with Mr. Neba Rene on the risk of increased corruption, another teacher, Mr. Anu Nick Nkem, outlined the impact on Cameroonian families.
The direct recruitment of teachers used to be an advantage for some families, that they used to maybe have a teacher as a breadwinner of their families. This will no longer be the case from next year, 2023. Because
to Mr. Sama Abang Mugwa, there is the concern of the effervescence, but also that of the bigger picture and the long run.
As a teacher, I would decry it with some bias, because it's going to take away some value and the effervescence that characterizes those schools. But as a Cameroonian, and looking at the bigger picture, I think it's a welcome initiative. When you remove that matricule factor out of ENS, that automatic magical factor out of ENS and NSET, you will now find people who would choose and volunteer to venture into those schools and venture into the profession of teaching with a passion. People who will take teaching as a vocation and as a call to service, not as a means of survival. That's the way I look at it.
While acknowledging that ENS and INSET will not be the first public schools in Cameroon to be affected by such a decision, the teachers think that the planned decision could also be interpreted as part of government's plans to restructure the economy.
The advantage can be that maybe the government is trying to change the economic model of the country, which is almost a public sale-oriented economy.
In the long run and for the sake of the country as a whole, it's a good initiative.
They, however, believe that other better methods could be used by the government. For example, the transferring of the responsibility of training teachers to faculties of some state universities like Bamenda and Buea in order to avoid corruption and teachers of circumstances.
Inhabitants of Ekanjo Bajo in the Kupe Maniguba division are sending distress calls to their elite local or municipal and administrative authorities over the deplorable state of the road, the main road running into that part of the southwest region of the country. And in the report coming up next month, Jikan Gabriel says that the road was supposed to have been constructed since 2005, but till date nothing has been done there. And he recounts the ordeal of a family transporting a corpse into a Kanjo Bajo village. His report.
A family said to take the road as they give their loved one the last respect. Unfortunately, due to no access way to the village, the mourners will first of all try to use a commercial motorcycle to transport the corpse. We are along the Bangem Guti Road in Kupe Mwaningubo division of the southwest region, where mourners heading to a Kanjo Banjo village were forced to go through tough times to get the corpse of their loved one to the village. Due to the lack of a motorable road getting to the village, they were forced to transport the corpse with their heads.
This is the road to Ekanjo Bajo, a village community of more than 2,000 people. The people have been suffering like this for decades. The government have abandoned the people of Ekanjo Bajo. You can see transporting the corpse to the village is a nightmare. This is the stretch of Bangem Guti Road that was traced in 2005. Since then, government have done nothing to amend this route.
The road in question was traced as far back as 2005 to be constructed, but till date, no road is passing to the village upon numerous promises from politicians of the division.
It's really horrible. Look at the suffering in the 21st century, what the people are going through.
My brother, just like you really said, government has really abandoned this stretch of road. We cannot imagine that we are living in the 21st century and in the so-called government of the New Deal.
After the suffering noticed on the road, another challenge was to cross River Ebie, which is not having a bridge.
It's not easy.
The inhabitants of Ekanjo Banjo village, as well as road users, are now calling on their elite to come to their rescue, because if the road was accessible, the journey to transport these corpses that was done in more than 4 hours could have been done in 30 minutes.
This is something.
Out of Cameroon, 19 children of a primary school in Texas, United States of America, have been targeted and killed by an 18-year-old gunman, and the President of the United States, Joe Biden, has termed this or qualifies this senseless crime, and ordered flags to be flown half-mast till Saturday. In Africa, the African leaders or presidents of the African nations are discussing how to solve the problems affecting the continent, including health, climate, food, and security crisis. They are meeting in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. Roundup of all these in this report compiled by Innocent.
Killing of 19 children and 2 adults at the primary school in the U.S. state of Texas on Tuesday by an 18-year-old gunman, identified by authorities as Salvador Ramos, has been described by officials as the deadliest school shooting in nearly a decade. It is the latest gruesome moment for a country scarred by a string of mass shootings. One of the adults killed was a teacher. Responding to the scene, police officers killed the gunman, who abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School armed, targeting the children, who are being mourned across Texas state. The teenager is suspected of shooting his grandmother before the rampage. President Joe Biden, tossed by the senseless crime, urged the people in the United States to stand up to the country's politically powerful gun lobby, which he blamed for blocking the enactment of tougher firearms safety law. Biden ordered flags flown at half-staff daily until sunset on Saturday in observance of the tragedy. In Africa, the extraordinary summit of the AU is currently taking place in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea. It began this Wednesday to end on Saturday, chaired by Macky Sall, President of Senegal, current chairman of the African Union. 2 summits are scheduled for this Friday and Saturday. The health, climate, food and security crisis will be at the center of the discussions. Saturday will be devoted to fight against terrorism, whether in the Sahel, Mozambique or Somalia, but also to the political instability experienced by many countries over the past 2 years, with the resurgence of coup in West Africa. The summit opened May 25th, same day the African Union celebrates its 20th anniversary, celebration which is centered on nutrition, with the AU theme for the year 2022 being strengthening resilience in nutrition and food security on the African continent.
The Anti-Corruption Agency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has arrested a presidential aspirant of the ruling APC party just days to the party's presidential primaries. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) arrested Rochas Okorocha in the capital Abuja on allegations of corruption involving diversion of 2.9 billion naira of public funds and property. He allegedly committed the offences during his tenure as governor of the southeastern state of Imo between 2011 and 2019. Previously, he denied the accusations. The 59-year-old politician is currently a senator. He's being detained by the EFCC, and there was reportedly a standoff for hours between some of Okorocha's supporters and operatives of the EFCC during the arrest at his residence. His supporters say the arrest is an attempt to frustrate his presidential ambition. In a statement, the EFCC said it had no other option after Okorocha jumped the bail it granted him and also failed to honor invitations for questioning. Now take a listen to the presidential aspirant in this extract.
I find myself, I'm under what I call a hostage, and since morning I've not been able to go out, and there are policemen and EFCC all over my compound, and my gate is blocked with their car, and all I'm asking for now is that could they please allow me to go for my screening. I have screening going on right now with all the presidential aspirants. My election comes up on Sunday, and if I'm not allowed to go for this screening, I might miss it. I'm not an unknown person. I have address. People know me in Nigeria. All it takes for EFCC is to send me an invitation, and I will gladly oblige. But as I speak to you now, I've requested for any arrest warrant, any order of court, none seem to be available. Any invitation, and none have not been invited, and I refuse to go. But my lawyer has addressed them, and they're saying that the director that they had instruction.
The presidential aspirant of the APC party, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, was speaking there before his arrest. He was speaking at his residence in the country's capital, Abuja. And this is where we end the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Thank you for joining us in Talking Point today. We are receiving Dr. Nick Ngwanyam. He is a Cameroonian politician. Dr. Nick, you're welcome.
Very much, thank you, and good evening to our listeners.
To look at two dimensions, the two dimensions of power that you think, if that is understood by Cameroonians and Africans, the continent will emerge. And the first point I want to highlight here, want you to analyze, is power instituted in the position as defined by the law. What's in this?
When we are talking about power instituted in the position as defined by the law, we are looking at the organigram. The organigram in an institution, the organigram in a nation, the organigram in your house and wherever, where power is necessary. There must be a power structure, and in that power structure, you say who. Okay, it's not about the John, Paul, Alexandra, Mary, or whoever, but you say at any point, if you have anybody sitting in this position, in this chair, in this capacity, this is what he or she is capable of doing and should be able to do. And then you define that and you protect that in the law and the constitution, so that whoever sits in there is able to do those things and is protected by the law and is given the powers to do so by the law. That is the power of the institution. So we have in a country, you have the president, prime minister, ministers, in the assembly, wherever, and for those of us who have private institutions, you have a director, you have a CEO, you have a head of department, or those are power structures in which you fit people to be able to carry out the jobs and functions that would allow the whole system to work. So once you have that power structure, then you now have to look for people to fit into those power structures and to make those things work as you wanted. So in looking for the people to fit those positions, you cannot just put anybody. You now have to go out there and say, look, I want somebody with these qualities to be able to fit into this position. And then you are looking for managerial qualities, and you are looking for management qualities. You are looking for the capacity to solve problems and so on. That's what we are talking about. Let's say, for instance, if I were the president of Cameroon today, I would not just take Babila and make him a minister because I know him. The Babila Jonathan must have the capacity to be able to solve the problems. So that's what we are talking about.
Barack Obama called strong institutions.
He called them strong institutions in the sense that when, like it's in Pidgin, when you make your juju, you must respect your juju. I come from up country when we have this thing called nko. Nko is a spirit and so on. And the people who make the nko, they go into the inner chambers and make their nko. Once they come out, with them, they agree, they talk about what they should do and so on. But don't forget, it's a spirit in quotes, you know what I mean? Then as soon as they come out into the public, the people who made them they become more afraid of them than the bystanders. And when the people they respect the people who are with them in the house, when they begin to respect them and carry out their rules as prescribed, then the onlookers will now respect them even more based on the respect that the inner circle is giving them. So just to say that when we create a power structure and we respect it, then things work well.
Look at the way power is structured in Cameroon and other African countries today. when you look at those institutions, when you look at those organs that are created here and there, and the different governmental institutions, state institutions, do you have the impression that this idea of strong institutions is respected?
That we have in Cameroon and most African countries is not the structures themselves. The structures are there. They're there. But the bottom line is we have problems at two levels. The bottom line is we do not respect our own juju. That's the first thing. We don't respect our own rules. That's the first thing. We say the constitution has to be like this. This person is supposed to be doing this and that. But we don't respect what we said should happen. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, when we are looking for people to fit into those positions, we don't look for the best people that will be able to deliver while in those positions, so that the population becomes traumatized and becomes irritable. We have these two major problems, and then when you add corruption to that, it makes for a bad situation.
About respecting the institutions. In Cameroon, for example, you are a militant of the CPDM, the ruling CPDM political party. Some of your comrades, many of them, especially those who are close to the head of state, are often criticized for practically worshipping the head of state, respecting their juju, so to speak.
Respect your juju. When you say you respect your juju doesn't mean that you should be a praise singer. That is, being a praise singer is a different story altogether. But respecting your juju means you respect the institution. You know, if you have been to the Fonum Palace or to any of these our palaces, when you enter the palace, you will see the throne of the palace there, and the king, the fawn or the king or the chief is not there. But you sit there in awe and respect of that throne. Whoever is there, you respect the person. So we respect by the institution, not the person. So. But when people are, of course, you have to, but you have to also respect the person. There's no question about that. But most of the times, people fear. They fear the institution or they fear the person. They don't respect the person. And more often than not, what causes the fear is the fact that even as far as they are concerned, they don't probably have the right capacities and to solve problems. So instead of doing their work and respecting the person in power, they don't do their work, and then they fear the person in power. And the bottom line is many people are motivated by food and what they can get and so on. That's the problem.
Just be respect, not worshipping or praising, but respecting the persons who incarnate the institutions, but respecting the person and the institution, and more importantly, the institution that the person incarnates.
About respect, not fear. You see, when we use the expression, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That fear of the Lord is respecting the Lord and God for who He is and what He stands for and so on. It's not the kind of fear like being afraid of the gendarme or something like that. When we say to fear the Lord, that's what we mean. It's respect. Respect. It's about respect. And when you have the character and the capacity to respect, you will not only respect the head of state, you will not only respect the minister, you will respect your driver, you will respect your cook, you will respect the person who is sweeping the street. You know, you have seen the violence that is going on in schools. Students don't respect their teachers. The teachers don't respect the students. Then students don't respect themselves. So it is an issue of respect amongst ourselves as human beings. When we lose the capacity to respect, then the whole structure in the society crumbles.
A mention of power, which you think that is very, very important and cardinal for Cameroonians and Africans to understand for the emergence of the country and the nation or the continent at large, is power based on inherent or power based on the inherent capacities of the person occupying the post, whatever it is. What do you put?
That's right. It's very important, and you get that expression, whatever it is, because when we talk about power and post, people just jump president, minister, that. No. You know, leadership. There's leadership in every organization where there are two people, wherever there are two people, leadership comes in place. You know, if you and I are walking on a path, on a bush path, and I take the lead, I become the leader as far as that bush path is concerned. So leadership is in everything and in every sphere. But if I have to lead you through the bush path, then I must know the bush path. I must have the capacity to know how to interpret the signs and symptoms along that bush path. That's what we are talking about. So in every situation, you must have the capacity. You know, we have always made the mistake. I'm reading a book now. We have always made a mistake to think that leadership structures are some hard and fast things that are put in an organigram. The leadership at any material moment depends on the person's capacity to solve problems, which would mean that, okay, you are in the studio now and recording what I'm saying. You see, you are the lead journalist there. But when it came to the technical setup, you know, to get us connected, there were your technicians who are leaders in that sphere, and you step back. So it's about role play. When there's need for this role, the best person with the leadership skills in that area pops to the front. So that's how teamwork works. It's not about having a boss sitting and pressing down on everybody. So we need to be able to develop these capacities. If you are a farmer, you should be a leader in production of animals and crops, in food transformation, in whatever, in selling the crops and so on. So leadership and management are very important. They are intertwined, and you must have the inherent capacity, not just to boss people and give them instructions, but you should have the skills to be able to deliver, not skills in just managing human beings, but skills in doing your job effectively. Is it a technical job? Whatever job. Is it in wealth creation? Whatever it is, you should be good at it. It's very important. If you are not good at it, you are a danger to the community and the society.
The assessment of the leadership capacities, the leadership qualities of African leaders today, and leaders in different spheres of life in Africa today.
We have not understood the concept of leadership, and most people think that leadership is about bossing people. Many people think that leadership is an opportunity that you get to be able to help yourself to the public treasury, or to be mean or something, or to settle scores and whatever. That is not it. We have missed it. Leadership is an opportunity to help others to have a better life because you are there.
So the heads of states in the United States and in France, for example, we often see presidential candidates, including the incumbent, coming on television to debate, to showcase or put to the view or the presence of the common man, their abilities, their leadership capacities. But we don't see that in Africa. Most often in Cameroon, for example, during presidential elections, we see the head of state maybe once or twice on the field campaigning.
No, the point is you have to understand that we are in a growth process, and it's about copying the best practices. And given that we have a lot of television coverage now, social media and so on, you will begin to see that as we go, from here, as we go forward, a lot will change, and probably, hopefully, in the next presidential campaigns, you will see a lot of that kind of thing happening, where people come on stage and say, and you, the journalist, you ask all the tough questions. There's nothing like question taboo, no taboo questions. You ask all the tough questions, and the candidates they answer and show how they are going to lead the country from this point A to B. It's very, very important that we do that. And besides, before you take the microphone from me, I have just been saying that we have too many political parties in Cameroon, and it's about time already that we scale them to 5 or less.
Saying that in Africa we have countries like Ghana, Tanzania, Rwanda standing out in some of these aspects, in some of these dimensions of leadership. What do you think is the driving force in those countries? What is the bedrock that is creating an enabling environment for these leadership dimensions and qualities to thrive?
You know, every country has got its philosophy and the way the people, everybody thinks. And when from the start we make truth and love the key words and the key guiding principles, and when we make respect for ourselves and for each other what guides us, and if we make giving, because love actually is giving, when we make giving a key principle, when we make solving problems a key principle, when we make the common good the key idea that we should be working for, then we begin to look for ways and means of making that better. And we also begin to look for ways and means of choosing our leaders at every step. You know, even if it's the Njangi group, people should say how they're going to make the Njangi better. So it's very, very important that we take this into account, that people can be able to debate their ideas and sell their ideologies, so that when we hear them, we can hold them to account if they are failing. And then we should know, the people should know what they're buying in the marketplace with their votes.
Ngwanyan, Cameroonian politician, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Equinoxe Television. Goodbye.